A very good morning to one and all present here. It's an absolute delight to welcome you all back to day 2 of this insightful journey at IMI Bhubaneswar. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome our respected dignitaries on the dais today. We are truly grateful for your presence with us here today. Yesterday was truly a day of ideas, inspiration, impactful conversations from thought-provoking perspectives on the human edge to the deep dive into the empathic technology equation that explored how heart and innovation must walk hand in hand. These engaging sessions have not only broadened our understanding of the evolving HR landscape, but have also set a powerful foundation for the conversations we're about to have today. And now, to offer us his invaluable perspective on navigating change in today's dynamic environment, it is a privilege to welcome Professor Dr. Amit Srivastava. Dr. Srivastava is an academician with strong research orientation and proven leadership skills. He excels in communication and mentoring diverse teams and building effective relationships across cultures. With experience in profit center management, corporate sales, channel operations, he has consistently demonstrated the ability to identify market opportunities and turn them into profitable outcomes. Dr. Srivastava is currently an assistant professor at IMI Bhubaneswar. Previously, he had taught at NL Dalga Institute of Management Studies and Research. Earlier, he was associated with Irma Anand and began his career in corporate sector with Max New York Life Insurance Company Limited. He has presented research papers and case studies in market and consumer behavior, including works at IIM Ahmedabad. His co-author case, Mahindra First Choice Service Limited, creating a brand new proprietary category, was developed for the ISP IMI Global Case Competition 2014, focusing on branding and market segmentation. We now request you, sir, to share a few words and set the tone for the discussions ahead.
Hello. So, good morning, HR practitioners, our guests today, my faculty colleagues, directors, sir, and the dear students. I welcome Mr. Aravind T, Ms. Bhavya Sharma, Mr. Arun Chetty, Ms. Archana Srivastava, Ms. Shruti Walia, Mr. Rakesh Jain, and Ms. Nandini Banerjee, who is on the way. She should be here any time now. I welcome you all on behalf of IMI Bhubaneswar to the second day of HR Conclave to discuss and deliberate on a very, very interesting theme about setting culture that sticks in any organization. I'm not from the area of HR. However, since from marketing, so how do I see HR as a role to play over a period is what I'm going to bring along here while I discuss for next 3, 4, 5 minutes before the panel starts. So workplace is essentially going a very interesting change. I'm not generalizing that it is applicable in all the types of organizations because there are organizations, particularly platform-based, they are much younger as an average age. But there are older organizations which still represent 3 or 4 generations today. So on one hand, you have baby boomers and Generation X who are operating in those organizations, and their orientation towards their job is somewhat different or very different as compared to even millennials or even Generation Z that we have today. So when These baby boomers and Generation X look for stability, loyalty, respect for hierarchy. Millennial look for transparency and continued learning for growth. And Generation Z, which has been essentially brought up in the times of technology, their orientation is very, very different. And their orientation looks for speed, openness, and inclusion. So, and this creates the job for HR managers most difficult, particularly in those organizations where got multiple generations to deal with. Now, culture in any organization is just not the written mission statement. It is essentially how people act and work on daily basis. That's what defines a culture in any organization, right? And what has happened over a period of rapid changes in one is digitalization. Broadly, it has impacted social fabric or social structure, and of course, exposure to global practices. Because of technology, now organizations need to set up a culture that is more inclusive, adaptive in the face of competition, and it should be more focused on performance than mere loyalty. So this is one of the change that I see that is happening, and HR is essentially responsible to essentially deliver it. Now, while we work with this mix of generations in any organization, there are a few imperatives that are there. One of them is that if we can share stories of the historical legacy achievements and connect them with the future goals. So the practices that worked well and are still relevant can be essentially used further. Second is the processes can be made faster using technology because organizations have to be agile, can't afford to be sluggish. Probably it was possible back in 70s or 60s, but not now, not at all. Third is the measurement of performance should not be focused only on the basis of output because in 19 post World War II, the world had this production orientation, so to say. So generally, the organization would be, I mean, the people who would take the shot in an organization were people who would represent production as a function. However, that does not work anymore, is not as relevant anymore. Now the output has to be through innovation, teamwork, adoption. So these are the three pillars that I see are going to be important for the futures. Now, in this bargain, technology in HR is playing a pivotal role these days. So, on one hand, you have AI, which is coming to even help people build their careers. There are applications to help people learn, and essentially for wellnesses, psychological wellness in particular, that was also discussed in yesterday's panel discussion too. But technology also poses few challenges. So, while we automate various workflows, what we risk in this bargain is automating the empathy side of it, which means the leaders of tomorrow will not only have to be data literate strongly, but they will also have to be emotionally intelligent. And there were instances taken by one of the practitioners yesterday where there are some very, very critical situations where human empathy comes in play. Technology cannot really come for help those days. So therefore, that point is important. And so Indian workplace is very uniquely positioned. It's rich in tradition as per the social norms or social practices that we have in the past. And we are also open or rather embracing technology very aggressively, very rapidly. So our task is essentially to blend these two and create the organization which are not only digitally smart, but they are deeply human. And with this, I invite the panel to share their thoughts on how organizations in India can go beyond rules and technology to create a culture that truly connects all generations and stays strong over time. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you sir, for your inspiring words and for setting the tone of what promises to be a truly enriching conclave. Today promises to build on that momentum, a day filled with fresh insights, forward-looking ideas, and transformative learnings that will shape the way we think about people, technology, and leadership. And what better way to begin the exciting second day than with the words of wisdom from a visionary leader who has been at the forefront of technical transformation. It is an utmost honor to introduce to you our keynote speaker following our session of day 2, Mr. Aravind T, a distinguished IT professional with over 2 decades of experience in software engineering, project management, and technical leadership. He is currently serving as the Director HR of Microland since 18 years. Throughout his illustrious career, he has held pivotal roles at renowned organizations such as Sonic Wall, TCS, Citi, EY, and Telefonica, leading cross-functional teams across India, US, and UK. At Sonic Wall, he spearheaded advancements in email security, cloud application security, and automation, and his expertise spans big data technologies, migration projects, and cloud security environments. Known for his strategic foresight, technical excellence, and collaborative leadership, Mr. Arvind has consistently driven high-impact projects and built high-performance teams that deliver innovation and value at scale. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me extending a very warm welcome to Mr. Aravind T. Now, I would like to request Dr. Amit Srivastava to present a token of appreciation to Mr. Aravind. Over to you, Mr. Aravind. Let's have a huge round of applause once again.
Once again, thank you for inviting me today. There are two problems right now. Okay. Problem number one is following Professor Amit's speech. Right, he's already done half of my job. He had one big lengthy speech and he's completed everything, whatever deck I had prepared. Okay. So now I have to top that. The second is the lady who just introduced me. I think there's some mix-up. I did not work for Sonic Wall. I have no idea what Sonic Wall is. I am from Microland, and I have never handled a technology job, but I've hired a lot of techies in my career. Okay, that's my portfolio, and I've been purely in the HR side of things for the last 22 years now. Okay, so quickly, I'll be connect. Second wire, too many wires here. निकल जाए. Thank you. So, like I said, right, I'm Aravind. I've been with Microland for the last 18 years now. Okay, it's my 19th year, and I have been throughout in the talent acquisition in Microland, predominantly in HR function. So one thing I can tell you about myself is that I've had the front seat view of how organizations transform or how organizations reinvent themselves day in day out, and that I think is the biggest niche which I carry where in my current role. And So typically my role would involve building talent pipelines or hiring leaders, working very closely with the CXOs of the organization to build on what is the next level of our leadership should look like. That's what is my portfolio. Apart from that, if I have to say what is interesting about my role is that there are crazy demands which I get, or requisitions as we call it, where suddenly someone is telling me, listen, Arvind, I need to hire somebody as stylish as a Rajnikant, as talented as an Amitabh Bachchan, but should dance as gracefully as Madhuri Dixit, and I want them as on yesterday. So that is my portfolio, and that is what I hire for at the end of the day. And it's as much as craziness, it is fun, and every day is a learning experience. In spite of even spending so after so many years in Microland, each day is very very interesting in its own ways. A little bit about Microland for some of you who have not googled it. Microland is an IT infrastructure services organization, and if you can think of any of the largest organizations and what runs the technology which runs behind, which is hidden and which is not seen for all of you. For example, when you look at a Swiggy, you can see the app, but then there are a lot of technology which runs at the back of the technology, which is your infra services, which is typically your cloud, your database, your data centers, which run is all managed by organizations like Microland, right? So Microland is a tech company, but what defines Microland is not the technology or the people who are the techies in the organization, but the people of the organization. They are the ones who are the key aspect, of the organization, and they are the ones who are helping us build what we are building day in day out. So typically what Microland is all about. The culture of Microland is all about the people in it, and they are our identity and they are our culture. With that, we will quickly move into the topic for today. And like I said, right, so I'm following Amit. So please excuse if some of these are repetitions and some of these are not something which are something. Some of these are which are already heard of. So when I heard the word culture, one of the key things which comes out is that the experience which an individual would have, or a group of people would have in a certain organization. That is for me culture. And when I say identity, for me identity basically stands out as something what an individual would feel, or a group of people would feel, or everybody would feel. That is what for me is identity. So what we would do is, we will kind of go through a group of, slides for you to, for me to kind of share with you what I feel or what I think is identity, and then we will try and see if we can open it up for conversations post that. So we will cover the entire topic on four different aspects, which is the story, and followed by the stories is what is the value, and then followed by that is the ritual behind those stories and values, and finally the perception gap and how do we bridge that efficiently. That's what we will focus on in the slides to come. So let's take for example. I've tried to use as much as the latest lingos which you can think of, and you can look at my gray hair and you know that I'm from that generation. So vibes is something which I've used. So when we went, when I was having this chat, previously before coming in, right? So one of the conversations and one of the topics when we came to what is, and when I say identity, right? So what is the identity is, let's say I say Netflix. Okay. The first thing which comes to your mind would be probably the logo with the N in it, the black background, and that's what you remember. But then if you have to go back and view everyday usage of Netflix or any of the streaming channels which you go and streaming apps which you use, is not for the logo which they come with, but the experience they give you, right? So I think there will be certain streaming apps which you will not even visit, irrespective of whatever happens because of the user interface not being that great, or but the experience which you gain with it and what it comes along with it is the key aspect. So, which is why, for example, each of us have our own. If you are using Spotify and you continuously listening to music for a period of time, or for Amazon Music, it will automatically generate its own list of suggestions which they feel that you would likely listen to it. So that experience is the identity of the individual. Similarly, each organization will have their own identity, which they have created over a period of time, and which is what is the key aspect of the identity to start with. Moving on, so if we have to create an identity, in my opinion, again, so there are three aspects which is the key, right? One is why do we have to create an identity, and so that means, or not the why are we here in the business is the key, and then secondly we do what are we doing about it, and then three is the sustenance aspect of it, which is how do we go about it. So take for example, for example, how many of you have heard of Tata Tea? Great. So you will have a lot of tea references there. So the Tata Tea used to have an ad called Jage Raho. I mean, how many of you have heard it, right? Yeah. So that the whole idea of that ad, it started off with a sense of civic responsibility, right? They're saying that they wanted to sell tea at the end of the day, but then it all started off with a civic responsibility, saying that listen, we have to create awareness, we have to do something about it, and that is the why aspect of it. And then what they did is they created a bunch of ads which is focused on corruption, voting, and probably feminism, all those things which came up. Then finally, I think the how aspect of it, in my the way I looked at it is they created a website, right, way back at that time, where you had to go and pledge that you will vote, or where you will have to go and enroll yourself, or have a tie-up with NGO. They used to have Tata used to have tie-up with another NGOs to ensure that this gets driven down. So the key aspect, like I said, that they have created an identity there of an organization which is not only wanting to do what they want to do, make the business aspect of it, but also deliver, on with a civic responsibility. I think that is the identity Tata Tea carried, and that is what that Jagger campaign was all about. So I think it's very similar to that is your Apple. When they started Apple, or computers were very, very huge and large, and that was the phase. And then in due course of time, they said, why can't we make it simpler so that everybody could use it? Somebody at home can use it efficiently. Otherwise, computers were limited to, now everybody would have a laptop, right? So computers were limited to, at that point of time, to large organizations, and that is where computers were, or somebody who was working in an office. But now, if they got the computers to everybody, and that is the why aspect of it. And what did they do? They worked on it day in, day out, and they stayed relevant. And this focused when everybody was still using phones with keypads in it, with numbers in it. They came back and said, let's do away with keypads and we'll make it touchscreen. And then they started marketing it efficiently. And then now, if you look at it, if you ask any of the iPhone, how many of you are iPhone Apple users? So the reason why you would want to stick to Apple is not because it is the greatest available phone, but the feel of it, the experience you get for it, that becomes their how aspect. So I think if you take any identity for that matter which has been created, it always fit into the why, what, and how aspect, which is why would be the purpose and belief, what is the action you are taking around it, and how do you follow through with it continuously, and that's the sustenance aspect. Moving on, so this is something which I tell, right? It's not only relevant to organizations here, right? It's relevant to the individual as well, right? So as an individual, it is important that each of you have that why aspect of it right now. If you have the why aspect of it and you try to focus on the why aspect of it, and you will know to get to the what and the how in due course of time. So I mean, there is a Tesla, what Tesla does, or for that matter, what Nike did at when they started off. Nike were selling shoes, but then they were not selling shoes. They were selling, people. I mean, one now it's the lifestyle, that's the sustenance aspect. But when they started off, when they were selling shoes, they were selling shoes which said that, listen, you wear the shoes, you are empowered, and you will have the grit to be like a sports person, right? So that is what they were selling. So that is the why aspect of it, and they invested time in doing that. So I think the most important aspect of the starting point for everything is the why part of it. So each of you focus on the why, and then I think the what and hows will follow in due course of time. So moving on to the second aspect, which is from a story to a ritual. So when you start off with an idea and you begin with it, you have to continue with that in such a way. They say that, right? If you keep doing something for a period of 40 days continuously, and it generally becomes a habit, and it stays with you forever, right? So it is any kind of habit, be it good, bad, whatever you want to do, right? If you stick to doing it for 40 days continuously, it will stick with you. So the ritual aspect of it covers that part where you not only start off and then you continue doing it. You'll all seen that Amul ads which are there in big hoardings outside. They are relevant today because they make it relevant as on today. So they make it as they not only give you that nostalgic feeling that, oh, this was done 20 years back and this is what happened. They continue doing it, and now they have made it like a ritual. So now if you look at Amul, that cartoons which comes up, you will automatically relate to the fact that not only it is nostalgic, but then there is a continuity in what they are doing. So you have to be consistent and persistently follow up with things which you strongly believe. I'm not saying continue doing even if it is a failure, but then I'm saying you need to have a ritual. You need to have that at the back of your mind that you have to be persistent in what you're doing. Similarly, is your Apple. Every time they launch, you know what happens, right? They make it a big deal. I mean, personally, again, it's my personal opinion that you can't hold me for it. But my personal opinion is I don't see a huge difference in their phones from what they were doing it to what it is right now. But then they are very, very consistent in when they're launching it, and the amount of crowd pulling they get for doing that is huge, and I think that creates that craze. And you can see that, and there will be in their DNA. I mean, any large organization which wants to do and which needs to have an identity will have a ritual which they follow. All right. So now I think we did speak about Microland. Okay. So I will briefly touch upon how Microland is relevant in this story, right? In the story and the ritual aspect of it. We started off in 1980s, 80, yeah, we're 36-year-old right now, In between the last 36 years, I think we have constantly experimented and done multiple things, and I've split it into three primary, where I look at it is, the Microland looks at it as five different parts they split their organization, but the way I look at it, three parts is right. One is when we started off, we were the largest network integrator organization or the infrastructure organization at that point of time. To the extent of bringing in Cisco to India, or to the extent of inviting Bill Gates to India for the first time. Microland was in the forefront to do that. And then from there we moved on into cloud transformation services in the early 2000s, right? And from there we moved into cloud transformation. That's what we were doing. And in the 2000, in the recent past, in the 2020s, in what we do is we have moved into AI-led transformations. So I think we are constantly, our core DNA is to not, while there are other organizations which are constantly focusing on disrupting and want to do that, what we want to do, or what we want to imbibe, what we want to show ourselves as someone who's working silently behind, things which are happening, and and it is not visible. So someone, I don't know who said this, somebody said this, right? So they said that technology is working best when we do not, understand it is working in the background. So I think that is the key, and consistency is what we are focused on. So going back to the TAT. So everybody, there are multiple tea shops around here, or you all have tea. How many of you have tea? I don't drink tea. So for a person who doesn't drink tea, I have too many tea references. So see, there are two tea shops at any given point of time. Let's say there are multiple tea shops, but think of it this way, right? You're at a tea shop, and consistently you will go. You would have gone to that tea shop for the first time because you wanted to have tea, which is good. That's why you would have gone to that tea shop. But then you continue going to that tea shop. Why do you continue going to the tea shop? One is the tea is good, but apart from that, there is a certain vibe which it creates, right? Certain things which you can relate to in that particular tea shop, right? Maybe it's the music, or is the gentleman who's making that tea, or maybe the hygiene of that place. Could be any of those things, or it is the group of friends where you can sit and you have good chairs for you to sit. So I think, irrespective of another tea shop coming in that area serving a less expensive tea, you will still continue going to the tea shop because it has created an identity in you. It is not, he doesn't have a logo, the tea shop doesn't have a logo, but he's created that identity in you, that experience is created, which is why you would continue going to the same tea shop over and over. I think, which is why the perception is the key. So even if there is a competitive mode, you will still continue doing it if you're having the right experience and the right feel towards that place. So the other thing is, we talked about consistency with Microland, right? Similarly is with, if you need to constantly be reinventing yourself and keep doing more and more in what you're doing. For example, Netflix, you might all know right now as a streaming partner, and some of you would know as a place for gaming. But when it really started, they were basically giving out, renting out DVDs, okay, and CDs at one point of time. That's what they started off as, and then from there they moved on to become a streaming, and now they're focused on gaming. I think that constant thing where you have to reinvent and you have to shift focus. Similarly with Microland, we started off as a network IT infrastructure, then we moved to a cloud. Now we're saying AI-led transformation. So I think that constant, that journey in the same field which you're in should be important. So this, for me, I think one last thing about this entire, I will close. I know I have another 1 minute left. I was given 20 minutes. So one of the key things is that, you between all these things, there could be times where there could be a perception gap in between what we want to do and what happens. One of the examples which I can think of is with Uber, for example. I don't know how many of you have experienced Uber, right? So with Uber, when it started off, they were primarily focused, at least in India, where they were primarily focused on incentivizing the drivers to sign up. And if there were a lot of people in my team who were contemplating, let me go back and become an Uber driver. It is more, I get paid more. So jokes apart, right? They were into doing that at one point of time, and then they stopped, and then the cash dried up. And then what did the drivers did? They switched from Uber, they went to Ola, and then there became some Yatri, and there are multiple apps that started coming up. So I think then they faced a huge crisis at that point of time, and they had to build that perception. They had to, there was a gap in the perception which they built, and they went back and they redid everything. They didn't go back and say, they did not raise more funds and start giving more money. They didn't do that. They said, okay, this is where we are. There are times where that perception gap which is created. Let's see what else we can do. And they redid the entire thing, went back and focused more on the service aspect of it. They ensure that they focus more on the security aspect of it, for especially for the women, and they started focusing on being inclusive and hiring a lot of women drivers to participate. I think that way they created and they built that perception gap, and they're doing pretty fair right now. With this, it's a very self-explanatory slide. I don't want to say anything more. Each of you should focus and make a public declaration. When you make a public declaration, is this right? When you, if you promise, and tell yourself saying that I will create an identity, and you make a public declaration of it, 9 out of 10 times you will achieve it. Which is why, way back when I was a kid, at least my teachers used to tell me that if you want to do something, write it down somewhere and put it up on a refrigerator or put it up on your wall, and look at it every single day. And when you end up doing that, when you keep doing that, looking at it, I think the moment you make that declaration, I think you will end up achieving it. So with that, I close. And I'll be open for any questions you have. I know it's not now, later, but we'll do that. Good. So thank you very much. Anybody have questions?
Hello and good morning, sir. So you mentioned
I
that.
think it's afternoon now. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah.
So you mentioned that perception is the key. With rapid change in the generations and the industry shifts, so how can leaders shape themselves to have different perceptions in their team members, and they can understand each and every team member's emotions or perceptions? Is my question.
Very, very interesting question. So, to the best of my knowledge, please sit down. Please sit down. So I'll try to answer to the best of my knowledge. I think there are different ways where you can where the leaders generally do. There are multiple things. See, for example, I think leaders used to think that this is my way of working. I need people to work my way. That is the way it should. It is the ideal way. That is when the team will build, and that is when the culture will get. Right now, I think the organizations are so fast paced and growing at a pace. I think even the leaders understand. One is the leader has to look at it from that perspective, and I'm sure. Forget leaders. It's the same question. If you look at the professors also, if you look at it, right, when they have to talk to you people, they have to have that thing. In Microland, one of the things which we did and which is very successful for an organization. So usually this is a pride factor for us when I tell in another forum saying that 20% of our entire population is greater than 10 years, in Microland. So they've all been working here for a longer period of time. It's a pride factor. But then what we do is we do the other way around. We end up saying that 70% of our entire population employees working in Microland are Gen Zs. So we switched it the other way around. So why I say that is going back to what I was saying is we do something called reverse mentoring. So typically MBA grads who are qualified, who come down, they will be assigned to a leader, and they will be mentoring the leaders in what needs to be done, or more from an advisory standpoint. I think that is one way of doing it. And obviously, with the changing thing, the leaders are to be see what is the mark of a leader, right? The mark of a leader is they have to constantly evolve from what they are doing. The Aravind who is standing in front of you today would have been extremely nervous 20 years back, meeting such a huge crowd. I mean, not that I'm not nervous today, but I will be nervous at that point of time as well. But the whole idea is this, right? The idea is you evolve over a period of time. You're ready to face what you want to do, and I think, and constantly keeping in touch with who we are getting in. And the one of the way of hiring people is not that what I want, but what the role wants. That has to be the switch. Do not hire people, for a role for the role. So do not hire people for the manager, but hire them for the role what they're going to play. And if you know that they're going to play, if even if it is a skill issue or a will issue of the individual, if it's a skill issue, you can obviously train them and get them up to the pace. If it's a will issue, you can always go ahead and motivate them and find ways to get them up there. But I think the hiring for the role is the key. And then when you hire for the role, the leaders understand that what potential these people bring to the table, and because of which they have to evolve themselves. I think it works both ways. I don't know if I've answered your question to your fullest extent, but then this is what I feel.
Yeah. Sir, Abhijat this side.
Yeah.
Sir, in your speech, you have said about reinventing and transforming because of the upcoming technology. And in the journey of your organization from integrating IT infrastructure in the 1980s to the biggest technological revolution of AI, was there any other revolution rather than AI where your organization had to reinvent? So, and how did the organization handle that big of a change?
Okay. So usually it's the success stories people talk about, right? So with Microland, there has been failures as well. Okay, and if any organization says that we have not seen failures, I think it's not true. I talked about Uber's perception gap as one of the issues, right? So with Microland in the late 1990s, we were focused on the dot-com revolution, and at one point of time, I don't know. I think you should go on Google right now and find out. There was a website called India.com, Indya.com, which was supposed to be the answer or the equivalent of Yahoo, okay, in India. So we were one of the largest search engines. Till very, very recently, if you're following news, and Disney Hotstar was posted on India.com website. Through them only we were, and then come 2000, 2001 to 2002, we had a lot of issues, to be very honest. We didn't go too well. And because of which we failed. And then that's when we said, okay, this part which we got in did not take off as good as we wanted it to be. We went back to the drawing board and said that, listen, we will do something else altogether. Not that it was not profitable at that point of time when it was doing business. It was very profitable when it was doing business. But then come 2000 with the crash and all those things, we went at a huge loss. And then we went back. So I think Microland has been doing that, every now and then. But we are not a disruptor, right? So we can't be that. It's not in our DNA to be that disruptor. But we will constantly see how we can automate, build platforms and, work with AI to ensure that it becomes more efficient, it can serve people better, for large organizations better. Thank you. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for such an enriching session. I have very generic questions where I want to know whether this culture can be treated as a competitive advantage. And if yes, then can you please put light on how it should be designed that it acts like a competitive differentiator and not just a byproduct of the practices of an organization? And also, please let me know how it should be governed.
It's a really big question for a generic question. So I think your question is multifold. Okay, so if I have to probably oversimplify your question, you're asking me, Arvind, will culture be an advantage instead of it being in the DNA? Can culture be an advantage to organizations? Right? Is that how? Am I almost oversimplifying your question? Is it in line with what you're asked? At least one part of it.
Exactly. Means I just want to know if I have a good culture. Means I am you guys have a company. Microland has good culture. Can it be a competitive advantage over other IT companies or something?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the core of this presentation. To be very honest, right? So culturally, it is very important that the experience which you give the end user or the other organizations or our customers is the key, which is why they would keep coming back to you. I don't know if you get this. There's something called the Net Promoter Score. some of the HR folks would know about it, right? The net promoter score is purely, in a very laymanish term, a customer who has been with you will, if another person, if another customer would, or if another organization would go to that customer and ask them, what do you say about Microland? And they would give a good rating about us, or what they feel about Microland, or what our capabilities are. And that stems purely from the culture. And like I said, right, we would like to in such a way that we are working constantly in the background of things rather than in the forefront. And then we want to keep it as quiet as possible so that there are no issues which are happening. I think they are purely, like, that's what all services organizations focused on. And I think culture is a very important aspect for that, and that is why they would keep coming back. Other customers would keep coming back to you, and it is definitely an added advantage. Our competitors are, again, I was talking to Rakesh some time back, right? Our competitor, Wipro is one of our competitors, right? But then while we have competition in getting this particular customer or an organization as a customer, between us, from a DNA standpoint, what we, Microland, does to what a Wipro would have done. I mean, it was ex-Wipro. So would have done, or or an Infosys would do, is very differentiated approach in how we do. We have to do the same work at the end of the day, but how we approach that work would be very different. And I think that would keep helping. That would help you to get more and more customers, and that will become the key differentiator. Okay. So just 1 minute. Am I taking away too much of time? Because you need to go into the panel, and I know there's a hard stop. I don't know if you have budgeted time for the Q&A. We can do it later. Last question. Okay. Sorry.
Sir, I have two questions. Like one is based on nowadays the social media technologies are reinforcing our own story. So how does conflicting stories, or how do you convince your own story to the people who are working? And the second one would be like nowadays the AI is in bubbles, like they are mentioning nowadays. So how do your company feel about that? Perception about it.
Sorry. I got part of the second question. I forgot the first question. What is the first question, sir?
First question was nowadays AI or algorithms are reinforcing our own story regarding what we are.
Yeah. So you keep browsing. For Rajnikant, you will get only Rajnikant as a feed, and you'll see suddenly Kamal Hassan is only actor in the world. So I understand that. Yeah. So I think
It's reinforcing our own stories, like our own perception type of thing. And when it comes to company, their stories, how do you bridge between those stories? And also in the organization itself, they have each one different stories. So how do you take the stories?
See, I think the story is a very interesting way of putting it across, and very interesting question actually. See, the thing is, the marketing team play a very key role in this. Okay, they play a very solid role in my opinion. As HR folks, we are the custodians of that, but the marketing team is the one who is driving it at the end of the day, right? I think if you and my fellow panel members will definitely will add more value to this when they talk about it. But then the marketing team has to have a very strong, compelling story to tell. You need to have a strong, compelling story to tell for you to get recognized, in a group of, in a group of competitive mode which we have. I think that, like I said, is the important aspect, which is the why aspect of it. Why do you want to do this? And with all those things, it is not only running ads. Previously, it was running ads, and you get to see it during the cricket match 100 times, and then you realize, "Mujhe kiwi kharidna hai abhi." So even if you don't need it, but then now it is beyond that, right? Beyond that, people don't say that. People do not sell, television right now. They sell experience right now. I think that aspect of it is the key. I know that with AI, it's in a way it has got its own pain, right? It's got its own issues, and I think with if you ask me with AI, what is the next step or what is the future of it? I feel that governing AI is the key. Okay, if you don't govern AI, it is going to it is going to cause more issues than fix issues. So I think governance is the key of I mean, it was the same for any of the technologies when we started, right? So governance is the key. If we can govern them and if we can, ensure that it is, comes under certain regulations, I think, we can do better. And all right, okay. Thank you very much. You've been a lovely audience. And so going back to my last slide, create your own identity. That's the key. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Aravind, for such an enlightening and inspiring address. We truly thank you for taking the time out from your busy schedule and visiting our campus. And we truly apologize for the discrepancies that we had while introducing you. We'll ensure to correct it. Your words have truly helped us to see how technology, leadership, and human ingenuity can converge to shape the future of organizations. It was a privilege to learn from your experiences and insights today. I would like now to request our esteemed director, sir, Professor P.C. Biswal, to present a token of gratitude to Mr. Aravind T as a mark of our appreciation and respect. Now, with that, we conclude a powerful start of day 2 of our event. Once again, a heartfelt thank you to you, Mr. Aravind T, for facing us, this time with his wisdom and time. As we continue our journey of learning, let me remind you that we have another exciting session awaiting us, a dynamic panel discussion where industry leaders will ensure the perspectives on the evolving future of work. It promises to be an engaging conversation, so do join us back with the same energy and enthusiasm after the short 10-minute tea break. Thank you everyone, and let's look forward for an inspiring day ahead.
Fraternity, we extend a warm welcome to all our distinguished speakers, panelists, faculty members, and participants who have joined us this afternoon. Human resource management is not just about managing people, it's about shaping culture.
The culture code. How organization builds identity that sticks. Every successful organization is more than its products, processes, or profits. It is the culture that truly defines its identity. Culture shapes how people think, act, and connect with a shared purpose, becoming the glue that holds teams together even in times of change. In our session, we will uncover how leaders can craft cultures that inspires belonging, foster innovation, and create lasting impact.
We take this opportunity to welcome our honorable panelists who have been kind enough to spare time from their schedules and grace this occasion with their valuable presence. Our first panelist for this session is Ms. Bhavya Sharma. Ms. Bhavya Sharma, an accomplished HR leader with over 8 years of experience across technology, corporate, and operations sectors. She is currently Senior Director HR at Zepto and an MBA from XLRI Jamshedpur, one of India's top management institutes. Ms. Bhavya has worked across APEC, LATAM, and MENA regions, shaping long-term HR strategies and translating them into initiatives that strengthen performance, workplace culture, and sustainable growth. Her expertise spans over talent management, organizational effectiveness, change management, DEI, and leadership coaching, balancing strategic vision with execution excellence. Let us all come together to give a heartfelt welcome to Ms. Bhavya Sharma. Please join me. I would like to request Sergam to escort me to the stage. I would now like to request Aditya to present a token of appreciation to Ms. Sharma. Please give a huge.
Our next speaker is a core member of Razorpay's founding team. who has played multiple key roles since the company's inception. He began by leading design, scaling the team from a handful to dozens, and shaping product experiences that reached millions. Today, as the head of culture and learning, he drives leadership development, organizational growth, and build a strong and lasting culture at Razorpay. Recognized in the TSOW HR 40 under 40 list, he also advises startups on design and culture and is passionate about fitness, healthy living, and science fiction. I request you all to join me in extending a warm welcome to Mr. Arun Chetty. I would like to request Roop Shikhar to present a token of appreciation to Mr. Chetty.
It is my honor to introduce our next speaker, Ms. Archana Srivastava, a seasoned HR leader with over 2 decades of experience in the telecommunications and manufacturing sectors. Ms. Srivastava holds an MBA in Human Resources from the Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow, and a bachelor's degree in Science from Banaras Hindu University. She began her career at Thermex Limited and has since held significant HR leadership roles at organizations such as Continental, Kalyani Steels, and Vitesco Technologies. Currently, she serves as the head of HR for India at TE Connectivity, where she leads talent strategy and organizational development initiatives. Let us all welcome Ms. Archana Srivastava to the stage with due honor and warmth. I would like to request Shruti to escort her to the stage. I would like to request Akshita to present a token of appreciation to Ms. Srivastava.
Our next panelist for today's session is Ms. Shruti Walia. Ms. Shruti, with over 18 years of experience, is currently heading HR at Cure.fit Healthcare Private Limited. She leads the company's people strategy, focusing on wellness, high performance, and a culture grounded in trust, empathy, and innovation. Ms. Shruti has transformed HR into a strategic growth driver, pioneering initiatives like the org.fit wellness program and integrating wellness into performance management, boosting productivity and engagement. An MBA in HR and marketing, she is also a passionate fitness enthusiast who inspires teams by living the values that she champions. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Shruti Walia, whose presence truly honors us today. I would like to request Shubham to present a token of appreciation to Ms. Walia.
It gives me great pleasure to introduce our distinguished panelist, Mr. Rakesh Jain. Mr. Rakesh is the talent acquisition leader for India at Grant Thornton Indus with nearly 2 decades of experience in recruitment, human resources, and talent acquisition. He has held leadership roles at reputed organizations including KPMG, Deloitte, Accenture, Wipro, and HSO, successfully leading hiring strategies for both Indian and global markets. Mr. Jain is recognized for his expertise in talent acquisition strategies, campus and experience hiring, and building GCC setups for international clients. He is also a certified professional in AI-powered talent acquisition and advanced recruiting practices, reflecting his forward-looking approach. We are truly honored to have him with us today, and I request everyone to join me in extending a very warm welcome to Mr. Rakesh Jain. I would like to request somebody to escort him to the stage. I would like to request, Raghav to present a token of appreciation to Mr. Jain.
To share rich insights on HR and organizational excellence, we have with us here today Ms. Nandini Banerjee, a seasoned HR professional with experience across FMCG and marketing, manufacturing, Manufacturing. She currently leads talent management at Tata Steel Downstream Products Limited and has held key roles at Indoderma, Imami Agrotech, MP Birla Cement and Star Cement, driving talent management, organizational development and employee engagement. An MBA from Indian Institute of Social Welfare and Business Management and an excellent alumna, she has been recognized among the Eastern India Leadership Awards 2024. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Nandini Banerjee, who brings distinction and inspiration to our gathering. I would like to request Shruti to escort her to the stage. I would like to request Shubham to present a token of appreciation to Ms. Banerjee.
No great discussion reaches its full potential without a guiding force. It is now my privilege to introduce the moderator for this session, Dr. Soumya Jyoti Banerjee. He is currently an assistant professor at IMI Bhubaneswar and has previously taught at IIM Bodh Dr. Banerjee holds a PhD in English language and literature from IIT Dhanbad. With over 14 years of teaching experience, he has guided students in business communication, technical communication, and business ethics, helping them develop professional and interpersonal skills. With such an illustrious panel and an accomplished moderator, the stage is perfectly set for a conversation that promises to both thought-provoking and transformative. Dr. Banerjee, we now invite you, sir, to lead us into what promises to be a thought-provoking and enriching dialogue. Over to you, sir.
Hi everyone, fellow panelists, welcome to IMI Bhubaneswar. My pleasure to welcome all of you on behalf of my institute. My dear students and audience members, I don't know if it's a conspiracy, but they have kept two Banerjee side by side. Nevertheless, so the topic is very interesting. Amit sir and Aravind sir has already set the tempo all rolling. Now, I have been told that my job as a moderator is to keep things on track. And if you have moderated a panel of HR experts, you know how easy that is. And also I have been told by my student who approached me to moderate this panel that, sir, you have to keep everything balanced, which is a very polite way to say that I am going to interrupt all of you very politely. So let's get the ball rolling now. Culture, identity is part of our classroom experience, and we talk about culture and identity more often than not across domains, across departments, and across subjects and courses. So, just to begin the conversation, I would like to hear from all of you that when you think about when you see the word culture code, from your perspective, from the company's perspective of where you stand now, what exactly do you think it is? How it has built up or shaped your company's identity? And just brief opening remarks before we get it started. So, one by one. And one more thing I should say that please feel free to interrupt and cut in between. There's no hard and fast rule that it has to be sequential. Okay, over to you.
Thank you so much, Professor Banerjee, and very good afternoon to all. Yeah, hi. A very good afternoon to all of you. So, culture, as the word is a very deep, has transcends a very deep meaning. So, for me, culture, I think, is the core of everything, be it as an organization, be it an institution. Culture is the DNA which actually forms the institute or organization or wherever our eyes travels. So to begin with, when I say it's a DNA, when I arrived at IMI Bhubaneswar, or to begin with, when I was invited here, So the first thing that struck me was the warm and cordial culture, or rather values, that was conveyed through the invitation, through the behavior of all who were involved in the committee. So basically, what I'm trying to say is culture is intrinsically values in action. And if I say by values in action, I mean if if you have a strong culture, if an organization or an institute has a strong culture, the values are completely ingrained from the top person to the last mile. And by last mile, I mean the person you impact, the stakeholders you touch. So for me, as a guest speaker at IMI Bhubaneswar, I was really humbled by the culture that I experienced over here. I know the kind of fiasco and flight I had gone through due to certain flight issues, and I'm really humbled by the values and the kind of health support which was extended by the students and the placement committee. And I think it is nothing but the values which has been ingrained into them. I went back and I checked what are the values of IMI Bhubaneswar, and of course I saw that uh, collaboration, humanness, and agility are three of the most. I mean, there are other values, but these are the values which resonated with my experience with IMI Bhubaneswar. So that is how culture speaks. You know, I experienced it as a stakeholder, as a guest who was never involved with this institute earlier. But what I experienced was the culture of this institute, which completely translated their values, and the values had percolated through the faculty, through the students. They had demonstrated. Shubham, who was the person who was assigned to me, I could see that kind of promptness, agility, the kind of collaboration he had extended towards me. That is culture. I experienced it while coming here. So not only that, I mean, of course, this was my experience. So for any organization, I think culture is the foundation. I mean, if we talk about culture code, it starts with the topmost leader. It cascades down to every level of the organization, and it reaches the last mile. I mean, I think my esteemed panelists would be, of course, elaborating more on it, and I would like to, of course, add more to it at a later on stage.
Hi, thanks for the invitation again. As Ms. Banerjee already explained a lot of things in terms of what culture code for each one of us in lines with. For me, it is not just the leader or the last mile; it is the people of the organization who drive the culture. It's something what is written on the wall, but experience in the hall. So that's one of the statements where we need to experience it to even define what culture is, and rather just not calling out certain value systems which are presented on the internet or the walls. So that's my 2 cents.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me here. See, every organization has culture. It's either by design or by default. Now, what is culture code? Basically the way we behave when no one is watching us is the culture. It is not a list of brochure, or it's not a list of the values that you put on a wall in a company. It's basically how we practice each and every behavior, every action, every hire. In fact, every decision making that we have, any rituals that we do in an organization becomes your culture. It's a way, so basically you can say that it's a set of invisible belief, invisible norms, invisible rituals, and the way of behaving. Our behavior when we tell people this is who we are and this is how we perform here. Culture cannot be put in the policy documents. It only has to be practiced. Like Nandini said, it is there in the DNA. At CULT, it is there in our operating system. Why culture is important? Because you can copy tech and product, but you cannot copy, sorry, I mean, with all due respect, but you cannot copy culture. What I'm trying to say that there are companies with a similar talent and strategy, have different outcomes, and it's all because of culture. No matter how strong your talent and strategy is, if your culture is not in place, it fizzles out. Now, why it is important to have the right culture in place? Because gone are the days when employees used to join any company for just for pay, good pay or good brand name. I have seen people leaving the best of jobs because of the poor culture. I have seen people sticking to the same organization because of the perfect culture. Arvind has spent 18 years in one of the organizations. I'm sure he's getting the best of culture, apart from good pay and role, that he's still there. Now, when we talk about cult, which is Cure.fit, cult is a brand name, what culture means to us is doing the right thing always, and showing up every day with high energy, empathy, ownership, the freedom to innovate, the freedom to voice your opinion, even if you're sitting in a room with your CEO and even if you're a fresher. This is what culture means to us. Whether you are a trainer who is leading the class in a center, whether you are a center manager or a store manager and you're dealing with customers, or you are a techie or an engineer who's building a product behind the screens. It's all about consistency across roles. So this is what culture means to us. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I hope it will. The culture of Nandini has spoken about IMI. Also, you stay energetic, listening to all the aunties and uncles this morning. Because whenever I come to any of the college, that always takes me to the other side of this. And if at all there is anything here and there, how I would like, how I used to feel, and that was the one what I took that time, that whatever we speak is make it a bit shorter, precise, and interesting, so that you people like to imbibe it and enjoy it. So that's the reason I think most of my panelists have spoken about. Okay, from the people point of view, from the employee point of view, and that concludes it very, very well. Culture is nothing but it's a collective mindset. For example, if the entire hall starts behaving in a way that somebody who's entering the hall and understand that, oh, this is a very friendly culture, they are very warm, which Nandini has told, very elaborated very well. So if I talk about in nutshell what culture from the business point of view, because other panelists have spoken about what is from the people point of view. So from the business point of view, culture is an element which actually enables the business, right? And this is an element which can either make or break the company. I'll give a very small example. For example, if you are a sales organization, right, and you are hiring and having people, and you are asking them to drive the business, okay, but they are very shy, introvert, they are R&D kind of people, they do not like to show the big picture and all, that organization will not flourish. Shruti has given the example of the Cure.fit. So I think mostly the trainers they need to be fitness freak, they need to be fit. If at all they are not, somebody who's entering, they would have second mind whether to join cult or not join cult. Right. So that culture is an element which, to be very frank, according to me, can make or break, and it's not something very fancy to keep and talk about it. It is actually an element which translates intent into impact. So that's what I'd like to add on. Thank you.
Firstly, thank you so much, sir. Wonderful welcome we've had. There's very little for me to add, right? And I think that's what Bhavya also. I try to simplify things, right? There's culture, there's culture code, there's values, there's something in your DNA, etc. How we treat this topic at Razorpay is how we take decisions in Razorpay is basically culture for us, right? Decisions about product, decisions about people, decisions about processes. For example, let's say, should I hire this person or that person? Right? Or should I launch in Malaysia or Singapore or Sri Lanka? Right? Should I do this meeting or not? It could be like a very small decision to something as large as should we acquire this company or not? So there is a fundamental decision-making framework, and that's culture for us. With that said, probably I'd like to hear from Bhavya as well.
Thanks everyone for having me here. So yeah, most of it has already been said. I'll just add my thoughts on it, right? So inherently, I agree with what everyone said, and specifically the phrase that Nandini mentioned. Culture is nothing but values in action, and it could be your decision-making process, it could be your talent management process, it could be your hiring process. There's just one another additional thing that I would like to add. Every organization, right? So one is the core DNA, right? So for example, I take examples of two companies that I have worked with. For example, Amazon, right? So the core DNA of culture was customer obsession. Now at Zepto, the core DNA of culture is speed. So there is one fundamental DNA of culture that will always be there with every organization. But on top of that, culture cannot remain static. There are certain values that evolve over time, right? Like we cannot stay stuck in this is the way we do things. There are times when we have to evolve as well. And again, like just to give you an example to make it more relatable, right? So I've been in organizations where one of the cultural element was innovation. And there are times when the organization has to go through a stage where they need to be cost conscious, they need to maintain frugality. And that's where the value changes and we try to rally everyone around it. Like again, how my fellow panelists mentioned, that you can have that culture, you can have that value, but not if not everybody in the room is behaving the same way, that culture will never resonate. So our job as HR professionals become that first you understand certain core values which are inherent in the organization, and then depending on the stage of the organization, there are certain values around which we have to rally everyone around it, so that the whole organization behaves in sync, tries to take decisions in the right way, and so on. So these were some additional things that I wanted to add.
Okay, let me start with you then, because you raised the point about cultural evolution, culture has to evolve and adapt over time.
Right.
But does it really? And I wanted to ask, let me play the role of the provocateur more than a moderator. Does culture actually evolve? Because if you look at all the organizational changes which are in place, it's just a reiteration of all that has been said before. For example, if you take, for example, values, all and the beliefs and actions, then that's the values manifestation of what you actually believe and what you actually assume. So how do you think when you say that culture, organizational culture has evolved, different kinds of evolutions that you have witnessed, if you can share some examples so that the audience also understands?
Sure. Again, I'll take the example of Zepto in this one, right? So the DNA that I mentioned, so the DNA was ambition, the DNA was speed. So there was a time when, in fact, even when I joined, the tech and product org was just about 300 people at that time. At that time, the organization was in a phase where they had to grow very rapidly. Now, when you have to grow very rapidly, you have to work at a lot of speed because there are multiple competitors out there. And hence, the core DNA was speed. Everyone was rallying around speed. That yes, maybe we are okay with slightly lesser quality, but speed has to be the DNA. Now, how I have seen that evolving, and now we have grown into 1,000-member org, where the whole, I'm not even speaking about the whole sector, I'm speaking about the tech and product org, maybe majorly where I operate. And now, while speed continues to be an important element, now we have to evolve into a situation where quality of decision making also matters, right? It cannot just be that, okay, we have to ship something and we will go ahead and ship something very fast, because when you become a large organization, you have to become much more responsible. You have to think about security. You have to think about people as well. Like, are we including different teams? Are we taking everybody's opinions on that? So that decision making that we spoke about, right? The decision making that was earlier centered around that one level of speed now has multiple elements onto it. And that is how it evolves. This is one example that I am taking right
Okay.
Yeah, because it is very hard to resist, because this is what the journey which I'm driving in the company, e-connectivity as of now. And that's a very, very private example I would like to give. When I joined 3 years back, exactly I can resonate with her. At that time, the way our product portfolio was, the way we were doing the business, the dominant culture was clan and hierarchy. Clan for you kids, clan is generally a family-like organization, very closely knitted team, mentorship and all. Hierarchy, it is mostly driven by, the control set. And when we identify the way we are in an exponential growth, what is that we need to do more of in India? And then we identify, and then, for again, in the interest of the student, there is a very good book which is based on competing value framework, okay? And that talks about that how do you move from one culture, how do you identify SS diagnosis, and then how do you move from one culture to the another culture. So now we are in the journey of stabilizing clan and hierarchy. We are not going to let go because we are really big. We are around 90,000 of employees across the globe, $16 billion company, very diverse organization. But here in India, the business which I am leading, we need to be very innovative, agile, customer centricity, and that's the journey we are into. So to answer your question, which you provoked us later, that yes, culture cannot be static, it evolves. So that's a very, very private one. I think Aravind told that most of the people we have that iPhone, so we know Apple very well. If you go back and see how the Apple organization culture evolved from time to time, when they started in the garage, they were adocracy. They were innovative. Right when Steve Jobs left, and then the another CEO he entered, that time they grew, and he replaced curiosity with the control. Then it was hierarchy. In the second inning of Steve Jobs, it became more of a market and innovation. So that's a kind of fact of the ages that culture is, even though it defines your identity, but it is not static. It's very dynamic and it changes from time to time. What your business needs to be successful. So that's what.
Um, Okay, I'll add a few things here to answer your question. Yes, culture evolves. It evolves organically, but it never leaves its origin. If it leaves its origin, that means we were never serious about it. So to give Cure.fit's example, I have spoken about few aspects of culture some time back. To add on to this, in corporate team, from the day one of our inception, we never had designations, and that was a conscious choice we made. You can see I'm a head of HR, but I don't know what to. I call myself and including everyone in the organization for at least our corporate team is for 1,000 employees. That's because we do not want hierarchy, and we have a culture where a fresher we hire, it's his or her second day, and is sitting in a meeting with leadership, have the platform to voice their opinion, have the courage to say, I do not agree with this, or I have a better plan. And it's working well till date. 2016 is when we started, and till date it's working very, very well. We are really happy with this culture. But when we talk about evolution, when I was hiring back in 2017, we used to hire engineers, and they used to say, what would I do in a gym? And that was a problem statement for us. Yes, how do we even convince people to join us, and we are hiring from top institutes? Because that point in time, we were projecting ourselves as tech-based company. But over a period of time, the narration has changed, and we project ourselves as ops-heavy organization because this is what is required here. A couple of more things we realize that we need to evolve is the feedback loop. We realize that people are waiting only for the PMS cycle, that is the performance management cycle, to share feedback. We started this culture of sharing feedback, having regular one-on-ones, and some more rituals, some norms were changed and evolved over a period of time depending on the latest leadership style. So yes, it evolves organically.
Sir, I see two questions coming from you, and very nice ones, by the way. Right? So the first one is about does culture evolve or not? I think the panelists have answered it pretty much well.
Yeah.
The second question that you asked was about the assumptions. I really love that question. I have an answer to that. I'll probably touch on the evolution of culture. So I think, see, values stay the same. Culture evolves. To give an example, while there were other examples as well, agility is a value at Razorpay. It stayed the same over the last 11 years. So 11 years ago, when we were just 7 people in Razorpay, agility for me as a designer meant locking myself in a room, working overnight on a product, taking it live. There are now 3,000 plus people at Razorpay, multiple products, millions plus customers. Do you think I can lock myself in a room, build something and go live today? Not really, right? There's legal, there's compliance checks, there's regulatory. Maybe something that I'm designing, it probably is affecting some other product out there. So I need to keep all of these restrictions in mind and still be agile. But just because these restrictions are there, does that mean that agility is not a value anymore? The answer is no. In spite of all of these restrictions, how am I able to move fast is the meaning of agility now. Right? I love what Professor Banerjee has asked on assumptions, right? A lot of companies, if you go to their hiring pages, they list down a bunch of values. And if you take a closer look at it, most companies, 99% of them have the same values. Everyone says the same, right? what all of you, again, I'm sure all of you will very soon start interviewing at places. Some of you would have started that entire aspect of interviewing at places. I would strongly urge all of you to ask these assumptions. Like when a company says, we value innovation, ask them why. Why is it required? Why did it come, in the first place? And how are you innovating and how am I expected to innovate when I join your organization, right? Don't take them as it is. Because there's a lot of assumptions, a lot of reasonings, a lot of research that genuinely goes into these values. And you as potential employees, you should definitely ask that question. Okay? I'm sure all the companies who are sitting over here today, every single value that we crafted, there is a certain meaning and a reason why it came into the picture. Yeah, yeah.
To add to what everyone shared, I agree to most of you when you said that culture intrinsically as a foundation remains the same, but of course with the evolution of the company, the business needs, there's a need for culture to evolve as well. So at Tata, if you know, there's a tagline which intrinsically denotes our culture, that is leadership with trust. So when you think of Tata, you name any product. I'm sure there's no one in the room who would not say that they don't trust. So trust is something which is intrinsically associated with the brand Tata, and that is going to stay. That has been there since time immemorial. That is going to stay forever. However, with the growth and evolution and progress of business, culture also adapts, culture changes, and that is how uh, we also define our culture, our ecosystem, and we also, when we take in talent, we see how relevant they are, how they are fitting into our culture. So that is of utmost importance. If the talent we are looking for is not fitting into the culture or the ecosystem of the organization, then there is a big red flag. Which does not mean that the talent, of course, the person we are interviewing, the candidate we are interviewing, definitely could be very talented, could be having a lot of skills, competencies, but it's not fitting with the culture of the organization. So that becomes a red flag because the moment we take in that person, I mean, down the line, there is a possibility of the person writing, getting demotivated, disengaged. That's something we don't really look forward to. So culture becomes extremely important, and how well the person coming in is actually fitting into the culture. Of course, from our side, from the organization's end, it is the responsibility of the organization, the people of the organization, to make the person acclimatized to the culture, to invite the culture. But if that is not happening, then there is a big red flag.
Okay, but let me take it from there. You talked about culture fit.
Yeah.
But if you are talking about the evolution of organizational culture over a period of time,
Right.
should not the conversation move from culture fit to culture add? Like, should we be looking for people who actually fit into the piece of a puzzle, like a piece of a puzzle? Or should we take in people based on what additional culture they can add? Because evolution and stagnation cannot go together. So, like, organizations, so what do you think about it?
No, no, so to answer your question, I mean, that's a very interesting question. So culture, as I mentioned earlier, that it evolves with the requirements of the organization, with the progress of business. So it is not that if we are defining the culture, it is not how we see it today, as on date, as at the present moment. We also think forward. It's a long-term thing that we exactly. That is how we look at it. So if we are looking at a person or a candidate or potential candidate who would join our organization, we would think ahead, not in the current context.
That person will be suitable.
Exactly, and how the person is going to add value and enhance the culture forward.
So just to add on what culture add you're looking at when you're hiring professionals. we coming from talent acquisition largely at a mid management to leadership styles where we try to relate what our culture and values are versus what an individual's culture and values are. And we try to relate maybe three of them, not all six of what our values systems are, because ideally we cannot expect a 100% match. So what we have done differently during the interview process is that during the later part of the interviews is that we have identified leaders who will be conducting these interviews who are certified, and they actually judge them on three to six cultural value systems what JD is more favorable for. We have inculcated that in the interview forms as well, and we have defined what an interviewer needs to read through or based on the lessons that what they are expected to convey to the candidate and get information out of it. So if you are able to relate that individual's value systems with our value systems and for the role he or she is applying for, is where we bridge the gap and we say, okay, this is a match for the role what we are applying for. And that becomes a cultural add for us because that individual is bringing enough and more value systems, aligning with our core values, aligning with the role what he or she is supposed to manage, and then build that culture with his or her team during the transition from his previous organization to our organization. I think that is where the cultural add brings in the current world.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
And add and coach.
You want to go next?
Okay, so when you spoke about cultural multipliers, right, people who can add on to it. So one way when you evaluate to the core values, that the core value should be there. Yeah. But how do you test whether the person should be able to add on to it? So one practice that I've seen across companies is that you have a set of questions defined with each of the values. So the questions will evolve. Like the example that Arun mentioned, right? Like agility 2 years back meant something else, agility today means something else. And therefore your behavioral questions will keep evolving and you will try to judge the person, evaluate the person on how he reacts to the scenarios you are anticipating 2 to 3 years ahead, right? The other best practices around, again, similar to the leaders that you mentioned, Amazon has this concept of bar labels, right? So you have people who are specifically trained on evaluating on these situations, and one of the criteria that we used to discuss during every interview is this person better than 50% of the team that we have in? Right, so that's how you keep raising the bar with every hire, that the people who we are bringing in should be better than at least 50% of the talent that we already have. That's something that we categorically used to discuss in every interview. So that is one best practice I wanted to share on the culture.
Okay.
Yeah, so to add on to what Bhavya and Rakesh said, culture add also means the complementary perspective of industry, the diversity of background and experiences. So I will give example of Cure.fit. I'll take another 15 seconds to explain what corporate team is and what core team is. Corporate team is basically our tech product, where you have engineering team, product team, your HR operations, marketing, and core team is basically our, in layman's language, on-grounds team, our trainers, center managers, store managers, those who front end with our members. So if we talk about hiring trainers, we look at people who understand the meaning of wellness beyond just fitness. We do not hire only certified trainers. We go to sports association, we train them, even those who would have just danced throughout their childhood as a hobby, we train them, we certify them, and then we hire them. Similarly, for center managers and store managers, we are not bullish about hiring people only from the business development or sales experience or from retail background. Trust me, there are few HRs who are literally rocking in, as sales managers and vice versa. And in corporate team, yes, when we started, we were quite particular about hiring people only from tier 1 cities, top B schools, engineering colleges, and so on. Today also, yes, we do hire such kind of profiles because there are a few roles which need this requirement, but we are not very particular about it. We choose talent over the skill sets and pedigree also. It's all about experience. So it's a combination of bringing the expertise, the experience and background. And like Bhavya, you mentioned, and Rakesh, you also mentioned the kind of interview we do. We grill more around the skills and values like ownership, empathy, how empathetic you are, we ask for some real-time scenarios from our candidates if they can state any experience where they had to.
Mostly behavioral.
Absolutely, because we cannot compromise. Skills can be taught, but the culture and the behavior cannot be taught overnight. It cannot be changed overnight.
See, the reason I asked this question of culture fit versus addition is from the perspective of my students. Because whether they like to admit it or not, or we like to admit it or not, when they sit for interviews, this is one of the things which is at the back of their mind. Should I look at my JD and think about whether my culture would fit into, whether my value system will fit into the value systems of the company I want to join? What should I look at? Should I look at the mission statement or the vision statement? Should I look at their social media posts? What should I look at? So, from their perspective, if you can give us some insights as to how they can approach this culture fit or culture relation.
I'll take a shot at it. So,
Yeah.
See, the answer is you have to be a value fit but a culture add. For example, let's talk about agility, right? It came up in the conversation earlier. You should fund, if let's say if any other organization that you're applying for has agility by default, written as one of their culture values, you should first think if you as a person, will you thrive in that agility?
Are you agile enough?
Are you agile enough or not? Are you like a chill going person? Or let's say innovation for that example.
But how will they find out that agility is one of your programs? What should they look at? That's my question. Can you please start?
Just to help you, our future leaders, and what Arun was saying, that nowadays, not in the JD, the cultural behaviors are also there, and I fully support when you. I wanted to add when you talked about the add and fit, right?
Yes.
Fit is something which is value set, and it is non-negotiable at sacrosanct. So, that has to be evaluated during the interview process. Culture, what we have spoken, I would not like it is evolution. It keeps adding and getting deleted as well for a while. And so that's one. And secondly, you just said that how will they prepare themselves nowadays? I think the talent acquisition guys, when they're writing their JDs, they're writing competency skill and the cultural behaviors which is required. And what Arun rightly said that. It's a two-way street. It's not like that you prepare yourself and then you rock and then you enter. You need to question yourself to what he said. Whether I'm agile, do I enjoy agility, or I'm the person which is chill, or maybe am I really like being innovative or something I would try somewhere else. So that's what a two-way street, and that goes for the long time rather than just cracking the interview, going there, getting frustrated, and not adding value to the organization.
Sir, I'll give an example. Right? The question that you had was, how do I know if I'm agile enough or if I like that or not, right? Quick raise of hands, I'm going to give you an assignment which you have to submit by tonight. How many of you are excited? So the ones who raise their hands, they thrive on agility. The ones who are not, you might want to think about it. Nothing wrong by it.
That's a very true representation of what.
No, nothing wrong, sir. Absolutely nothing wrong in someone saying that. Yeah, it's very personal, right? It's nothing that agile organizations are the best places to work, or agile people are the good people, right? So that's one. I'm forgetting the question. The value fit and culture add, right? How can you get that into the equation when you go for hiring, when you being interviewed? Figure out if these values of every company match your personal values or not, and then ask questions around it.
That was exactly my point.
Yeah.
How do I know what the values of your companies are? Do I look at your vision statement? Do I look at the JD? Do I look at what you're posting on social media?
So most companies have it fully public on their this one.
Yes.
So there's a lot of other methodologies as well, right? Like whenever you're hiring somewhere, generally there is a talent acquisition partner, and that person is your friend. Get on a call with that person, understand everything. LinkedIn is a place where you can go and talk to a lot of ex-employees also. And not just that, there's another very interesting method, by the way. Go to Twitter page of Twitter or the Instagram or LinkedIn page of that organization. Just scroll through the posts, the comments that have come from the official handle. More or less, you will understand what kind of an environment are they providing for me to work. Right? But information is there. You just have to discover it. No company generally hides their values. There's nothing that they get out of it.
I'll take 30 seconds. While you know how to recognize any company's culture, but my piece of advice, you cannot prepare yourself or you can't tweak your personality as per company's culture. Let me give you an example. In our organization, we don't have a culture of screaming and shouting, disrespecting anyone. That's a zero tolerance. No matter even if you're in sales profile, me as a manager, I cannot pass demeaning comments to my employee, and they have all the rights to go. They will share the feedback with me first of all, but imagine I'm not an HR and I'm from some other profile. They will share the feedback, they will escalate it, and so on. And let's say I am one of these students, just like you, and I feel that I have my behavior getting aggressive. I cannot survive in this culture, even if I prepare myself. Trust me, I won't stay in Cure.fit for more than 4 days, 5 days, a month, and so on. Similarly, like agility, if you feel that you are not that kind of person and you prepare yourself for the interview, that's not your place. Every organization has different meaning to culture. My piece of advice is stay authentic, stay yourself, be yourself. Just be mindful of what is trending these days. Know about the companies. You will have your target companies that you would want to industry you want to be with. Read about them and be mindful of what is happening. Being authentic is the key to success.
Just to add to that, while we are speaking of values and while it's available in social media or company websites, the only thing is that while the values are a word or a term in English language, but it may have different connotations. So there are value behaviors which are associated with all the values. So every company defines their values differently. So while I've seen that RPG has a value called agility, so I'm not sure about the value behaviors. We also have in our organization, we have a value which is agility, while my co-panelist was also referring to the value was agility. So every organization is at a different phase of evolution. So while his agility would have different value behaviors, meanings, I mean the meanings might differ from our agility, might differ from IMI Bhubaneswar's agility. So that is what, like agility broadly represents, of course, it means the same, but company to company, the behaviors actually differ. So as recruiters,
Yeah.
dissenting views.
Different, maybe it might be happening in the other day, but I have, whatever organization I have worked so far and I know so far, whenever we are defining the values, what does exactly it mean? So that means the value behavior is also defined there. So
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. So every value behavior is defined by the organization. So of course, there's a workshop which happens, and the leaders and all the stakeholders, they get together and actually come up with a set of behaviors which is more pertinent to the organization itself. So that is what I meant, that maybe the value behaviors which are pertinent to our organization, maybe it may not be pertinent to another organization while the value remains the same.
I'll actually give an example.
Yeah.
Amazing example, right? How many of you have heard this from Facebook? Move fast and break things. Not a lot. I see some hands, right? This is something from Facebook. Move fast and break things. That's agility for them, which basically means it's okay if you break Facebook as long as you're moving fast. Right? Please don't keep in mind if Facebook is broken, but experiment a lot, move fast a lot. That's agility for Facebook. Agility for Razorpay is not move fast and break things. I can't break payments. If I break payments, a switch of a button and lakhs and lakhs of rupees are gone from your bank accounts. I can't break payments. But does that mean that Razorpay is not agile? No. The way Razorpay is agile is a little different from the way Facebook is agile. So while you're interviewing a company, do a thorough research. Enough information is available, as I said earlier, and figure out what is that value, how does it come into play, what should you do to show that value once you join, and if it resonates with your personal values or not. If it's all a fit, then that's probably a good company for you to join in.
And you can also, I'm sure you have your networks, you have your seniors to have a good network base. So I'm sure people must have done internships in these organizations, must have been associated with the organization. Get in touch with people from the organization which you're aspiring to join. So I mean that should be good enough information.
I was
Adding on to what Nandini was saying, that yes, you have enough and more opportunity to network with your seniors who are already present. There's one parameter which you can judge is how many people are rejoining these companies or rehires in this company, where you can actually judge their culture or the value system, where the professionals have joined them, worked with them, went for say XYZ relocation money or better opportunity, but I've also come back to this company after experiencing the outer world. I'm one such example. I was with Grant Thornton back in 2018 to 21, got an opportunity to join them back this year. So the thing what me here is obviously the leadership as well as the culture what I had experienced back then was made it easier for me to join a company which I know the culture, I'll chime in very easily rather than getting into a new level which is unknown for me. So these are the few parameters I think which will add on to how you can relate or find ways of getting a better value system aligned to your current value system and the future organization you might do.
Yeah, I would just like to add a slightly different piece of advice. So one thing which I completely resonate with is what Shruti said, that be authentic. If I put myself in the campus scenario and having not been too long ago on the same side as you guys, there's so many companies coming and so many opportunities there. It's very difficult to do so much thorough research and go deep into every company and understand the values and then prepare yourself for it. I'm speaking in terms of practicality, right? As I was there not so long ago. But what will really help if everyone knows their core values, stay authentic in the interviews. Don't try to fake it. The other piece of advice which I wanted to share was around don't be so rigid about yourself as well, right? As culture evolves, we also evolve as human beings, right? So don't be so particular about that, no, this company has listed this value, but I don't feel this way right now. Maybe you will go there and evolve, right? And if it doesn't happen, you can always move on in life, right? So just as culture evolves, we as human beings also evolve, and sometimes it's okay to experiment a little and not be so rigid on this is exactly what I'm looking for and this should be an exact like puzzle fitment. It never happens. We often, experiment a little and learn along the way.
Okay.
Being authentic self is very important. That's, I think, that's the most crucial factor that we recruiters look at. And I think we figure it out very easily if somebody is not being authentic.
How do you do that?
I mean, that is how we have trained.
You're not going to spill the beans. Okay.
That is a competency we have earned.
Yeah. I want to bring the conversation to the second part, which is identity. One is culture, the other was how organizations build identity that sticks. Now, identity is a very crucial part of any organizational. But how do you balance out between the individual's identity of self and the organizational identity at large?
What I would suggest is, with Grant Thornton, we have very clearly defined core values. And when I say clearly, it is actually the abbreviation of our core values, which is collaboration, leadership, excellence, agility, and clearly with double R, responsibility and respect. So we have tried to keep it very simple in terms of each one of us aligning ourselves with the core values. My input, which I've been doing it during our campus presentations and pre-placement talks, while we are introducing these clear values to the students or the prospective future employees of ours, is that I would suggest identify your value system related to either one of the six clear values, and try to see that, okay, if for example leadership is one of your core values and you would align with GD's leadership core values, then stick with that and start with that. You might not want to relate to all the six core values and say, okay, none of the core values are aligning with me, why should I look at taking up this as an opportunity? But I would say just pick up one of them, build with that, and then continue aligning with the rest of them, or I would say relate it to the rest of the values and then build a career with the firm. Rather than just thinking of, okay, I need to have 80% alignment or 100% alignment. That might never happen. So that's my point of view.
Yeah, it's basically about the larger alignment. At times, in our organization also, it's my way or highway. We want everyone to be aligned broadly, but yes, people have their own perspective. Now, one of our core values is nurture your mind and body, and we strongly believe that before we go and make others like active or want them to be better at everything, it should start from within. It doesn't mean that you will see all employees with six packs and muscles in our organizations. There are still people who still have very bad work-life balance, who have poor lifestyle, who do not work out, and we do not push them. Eventually, we align them. There are a lot more opportunities that we give them within the organization that if not today, some or the other point they will be that will be embedded into their lifestyles. At times we learn, like we said, our culture evolves organically, and this is what we learn from people also. From day one, we were not following the practice of sharing feedback, uh, having regular one-on-ones. We realized it over a period of time, unless someone or many people pointed it out to us. Hey, I just got to know my feedback during PMS, and I thought I was doing well, but it's a surprise to me. And we realized, oh, we should have those one-on-one catch-ups. So this is something that we learn from people also. So it's all about broader alignment. It can be done as and when the situation comes. One of the things, how we do that, one of the things is it should get top-down. I mean, leaders must walk the talk. And I'm sure most of us will agree to this. Unless we do it, it fizzles out. Fizzles out. The purpose will fizzle out. So walk the talk, everyone. And building culture, sticking to core values, it's not only HR's responsibility. Each and every employee contributes equally to that.
Let me just point out something which came to mind. You talked about leaders have to put,
walk the talk.
But are we actually training them to be that? I think we are training managers. And the difference I see between a manager and a leader is, a manager might be in charge, while a leader has to be responsible for the people who are in their charge. But this transition from being a manager to being a leader, are the organizations training them to be that? Or as I see in India, given the experience that I have had over the past 15 years of being an employee in an organization, I don't see that happening very often. So are we walking the curve?
Sure. I'll just take a step back. First, I'll explain what I meant by culture being top-down.
Yeah.
That means if we are preaching about having a healthy lifestyle, we cannot expect people to do it all of a sudden. Our leaders, so our CEO, it's pretty normal that at times in a week he will pack his bag at 5:30. He will call the rest of the team members to go and play football. What introduction was giving on Cure.fit, that's a program that we have started 2 years ago. You name the sport, we have our community. We have community, you want to dance together, you want to play a football, you want to just go and hit the gym, we have built those community. That is what we have done, and we don't expect our employees to do it. They will always be hesitant that my manager is watching me and it will be held against me. So to normalize this culture, we walk the talk. That means our CEO, our COO, all the leaders, they participate with employees then and there. Now talking about coaching managers, I'll come to that also. This you will see in Cure.fit culture also, that like I said, it is not HR's responsibility to identify the gaps or identify the signs of early burn from the employees. It is managers' responsibility, and yes, we coach them. And I'm pretty sure most of the companies have started realizing the value of it and they're investing in that coaching. Why? Because managers are not responsible just to have performance discussions with the employees, with their team members. They also need to connect one-on-one, to do regular check-ins, to check with them what is fueling them right now and what is burning them out, draining them out, so that they also are capable enough or trained enough to understand the early signs of burnout, and they can raise it to the respective people, HRs, and proactively take corrections rather than being reactive in nature. So yes, we are investing. I'm pretty sure most of the companies are investing on managers.
So I think the moment a company defines a manager and a leader in a different way, things start going wrong. Okay. If an organization defines manager as someone who can only handle a set of team members, I think that's where the equation has gone wrong. Because in my opinion, it doesn't matter the designation says a leader or a manager, you're responsible for a certain outcome with that particular team. So growing that team is also an OKR for you, an objective for you. Getting those outcomes are also equally important, right? And generally, I've seen three kinds of managers. The first kind of manager is someone who's so focused on the outcomes that they really don't care about their team. And these are the managers who are very great when it comes to meeting their challenges. Like they are the ones who will get you sales numbers. They are the ones who grow the organization in terms of business. Second kind of manager is someone who focuses on their team so much that even outcomes, if they take a backseat, they're fine with it. And these are the empathetic leaders out there. Everyone in the organization loves such leaders. But the point is that entire team probably isn't meeting their goals, not raising the bar raiser that you mentioned earlier, right? Third kind of a leader is someone who balances both. This person knows when to push for outcomes and what kind of an empathy way, right? So again, I'm pretty young. I hope I look young. You look 21. I just have experience of just 10 years, and I see Aravind sir with over 18 plus years of experience in one company, right? So, in my experience, I've generally seen most new age startups have understood this difference, and they've started investing in coaching their managers and leaders, and they've started putting that effort both in terms of money as well as time. Like for example, I know of organizations, again, Razorpay is one of them, where until unless you play the right role of a manager, you're not promoted. Many often than not, we see that, okay, this person is meeting the sales targets, this person is ready for becoming a manager. Maybe you're good at sales targets, but you're not so great at managing the team. Right? So companies have started, investing in that and taking it in a very different lens. Yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying, agreeing to your point, promotions are not just performance based, it's about the readiness, and companies are being mindful of it. If you're actually ready to handle a team or you still need coaching, it's absolutely fine. We coach you and then we promote you to the next level.
So rather the gaps are also evaluated and the readiness level is also gauged that way. So whenever there's a leadership pipeline which gets identified, so the readiness level gets evaluated whether the person is ready now, ready in the next 2 years, 3 years to assume the next role. And what are the interventions that are required for that person to scale up to the next level. Those interventions are actually, there are individual development plans which are rolled out. They are being taken through it, and once they are ready, then of course they move to the next level. So it's all very structured that way.
Okay. I'd just like to add on to it. So, first of all, I think I would like to agree with what you pointed out, right? It's true that probably the effort that organizations put on and on managers' development around training they have to do one-on-ones, probably at a top leadership level. I also understand there's no distinction, but what you meant was around the top leadership level. Probably that has not been so much in comparison, right? Because people generally assume that if somebody is a leader, he or she should be demonstrating their behavior. So first of all, I would completely like to agree with you, but as all the panelists added, there has been a very conscious effort towards it. In the last 4 to 5 years, as I see, like even Amazon, which had been, which has been there for so long, there has been a very conscious effort towards it in the last 4 to 5 years. I'd just like to name some mechanisms that are there by people quoted it. I would just like to put some HR jargon onto it. So, for example, when we do succession planning for senior leadership, people leadership is seen as a very big area. If you are readying someone to be a successor of some leader who is leading a large portfolio, you have to start grooming the person for people development right before year 1 or before year 2, before they start demonstrating those behaviors, and unless they demonstrate, they will not be promoted. Second is 360-degree feedback, like multi-stakeholder feedback, right? That also includes feedback from your direct reports, from stakeholders, multiple promotions, or even ratings get impacted if a person is not demonstrating the right leadership behavior. And it's not just that feedback is only considered from your peers or people above you, but also people who are lower than you can have. That's the true meaning of a 360-degree feedback, and that is something that is, have consciously been implemented in most organizations. The third thing I would like to add is that, see, the managers, the coaching interventions, the difference you can see in a very short time. Like, you can track one-on-ones, you can track whether the manager is making IDPs. With leaders, the difference is very subtle. Like, for example, if I look at my own journey of working with difficult leaders, right? I spent 6 to 8 months feeling frustrated that I spent so much time coaching this individual and I'm not seeing a change. And suddenly 1 year later, when I look back at it, I feel some changes. I'll give you some examples. Like, again, I'll not quote the organization or the leaders, but there was a leader who used to be late for most meetings. Like he'll give a time of 12, he'll not be there till 12:45, and people would be waiting. And this continued for 3 months, 4 months, and every time when I speak, I tell him that, see, this is not okay, you should not be doing this. People are saying, oh, but I have so many meetings, what can I do? And it goes on, and after 3 to 4 months, you also give up that this leader is not going to listen. But after 6 to 7 months, you start seeing some changes. That when a person walks in late, he will send an apology message. And you will know that while he has not acknowledged it, that message has registered somewhere in his or her head, right? So this is one. The second one is around, for example, the whole talent management process. So I'm just quoting some practical examples. Like, again, there used to be a situation where a leader was like, no, I have recommended for promotion, okay, even if the feedback is bad, I am not going to consider it. I have recommended, I have consulted the right people, let's go ahead. But again, throughout the years, your job as an HR professional is to keep enforcing those processes. Even if you don't want to agree to the feedback, your job as an HR professional is to ensure that the leader reads it. And when he is reading it in front of 10 other people, the system forces the person to acknowledge it, and eventually it gets ingrained in his or her working style, and you start seeing it in the behavior a year later. So yeah, it's a very, very tough area. Most organizations are investing a lot of effort into it. The results will not be very immediate, but eventually in the long run it will show up.
Archana ma'am, if I can ask you, then how does an organization build its identity? Is it built upon the collective identity of the people who are working over there? Or is the identity imposed in a top-down kind of a structure? What do you see in industry today?
See, I think all of us have touch base. When we talk about the identity and all, we talk about the value set and the value behavior through which a company is known.
Or is it coming together of those two things?
Yes. Yeah, and when we talk about the culture, what the particular business needs, okay, and which evolves and change. I think Arun gave a very nice example, right? There are few things which does not, the meaning changes, but it remains the same. For example, for my company, innovation, integrity. Integrity, for example, is a value, right? And since the time, I think since inception, business to business, the cultural behaviors are different. But that does not mean that there is an R&D team of 8,000 employees and they have to innovate. They can't compromise with the value, which is integrity. So that's where. So identity goes, I think, that, which is the value sets, okay, which according to me is like a North Star. But this cultural behavior changes over the time, what exactly your business needs, right? And I think sometimes, there is an inclusion in value also, because recently we have included inclusion in our value set. Earlier it was 4, now it is 5.
Inclusion.
Inclusion.
Okay.
Because, though your students have promoted me and took me 4 years ahead, I do not have 2 decades of example. But I think when I started my career, D&I, inclusion, these were not the things which was talked about and and which was at that time at the central stage. But now it is there, and not only for looking very gorgeous and then this that, oh, we are inclusive and we are diverse, because it creates value to business. And a lot of McKinsey and all, they have their results R&D around it, so that there is a buy-in and people put it consciously, because it is not only for the good sake, it is actually adding value, adding top line and bottom line. So that's the reason we said that no, I should change that. We need to change our value set as well. So there are few things which is negotiable, sacrosanct, that wouldn't change. But as per the business need, as per the multi-generational thing, I think many one of us have touch base, culture change. So that's.
So just because you talked about inclusion DEI, you talked about inclusion and DEI, I wanted to point out something and get your opinions on that. When we talk about identity, the word comes from Latin identitatem, which means sameness. Identity means categorization. I belong. If I say, who are you? I am a man, and so and so. It also means belongingness. That I belong to this particular family. That's my identity. So how are organizations, complementing this particular thing about creating a sameness when it comes to value, culture, fit, and all that, at the same time taking into account an individual's identity? Because at the end of the day, I'm an individual who goes to office and comes back home, who has the fears and motivations and apprehensions that all of us have, whether we like to admit it or not. So how are organizations and how are your job roles looking after that? Or are organizations even considering this?
And at that,
And that's what the entire DNI, this campaign which is moving around, right? That
So isn't that, I'm just, I'm sorry to interrupt, politely. Isn't that a paradox? For example, that once DEI is about diversity,
inclusion,
I mean, you're taking different kinds of people from different walks of life, different backgrounds, and yet you're talking about an identity which is primarily about sameness.
no, identity of the organization is very, very fundamental according to me, and inclusion says that we accept them as it is they are, okay, in our team.
And then mold them into your this thing, put them into a mold.
No, that does not mean that you would always say that female and male are equal in terms of intellectual capabilities, so not the way the biologically, okay, what is the value they are driving, they are bringing to the table. That does not mean that if at all we are saying same, that means male has to be female and female has to be. We are talking all about intellectual capability, right? And when we are talking about the diversity of this, the way everybody different, unique, and the way they are wired when they are bringing into the table, it creates matching. So that's a different identity altogether, the personal identity we are saying. And I think a couple of minutes back also we have touched base when we talk about that, aligning with what is your identity, what is your personal value, what is happening at a very, very broad level. For example, when I look back at my journey and when I was about to join TE Connectivity, right? So at that time I had 3-4 offers. There were few things I said that it is non-negotiable for me if it does not, when I was doing my due diligence, that if at all that exists, I can, if it does not exist, I cannot. But that does not mean that 100% match. So there are few, again, non-negotiable sacrosanct things about every individual and the organization as well. That does not mean same 100%.
Okay.
I can have my point of view here. So we can have common culture code, and of course it has to be aligned, like I said sometime back, broadly. We cannot have individual culture code or individual preferences here. But how companies can keep in mind, it's not about individual per se, it's not about me, or it's not about Bhavya or Archana, it's about, we can take about, talk about some teams or some regions that way. So let's say in Cure.fit, it's better to give example, give you anecdotes. It's better for me to explain. While we have some common core values and we expect all our employees to follow that, but there are some touch points that we are mindful of, not only for our teams, not only for regions, but for our members also. How many of you have attended any dance session at Cure.fit? Has anyone attended? No. Okay, it's a feedback. There's one hand? Okay. Anyways, in future if you attend, my suggestion is attend in Bangalore, then in Mumbai, then Delhi and Hyderabad. You will see regional songs we play during our dance session. These are the sentiments of different people we take care of. When it comes to organizational public holiday for our employees, we have categorized it region-wise. Ugadi is very important in Karnataka, but Shivratri or Janmashtami is important in northern side, so we give holidays accordingly. Even when we are celebrating something, some rituals, their food preference, their lifestyle is being taken care of. While we cannot have 5,000 people to have their own individual personality, the culture will break there. But these are the touch points that at least we take care of, and I'm sure most of the companies take care of it.
All right. I think we should move to audience questions now, because as part of my moderation also is not to keep you away from your lunch. So, yeah, sure.
See, when we talk about identity association, we talked about how an individual should fit into an organization, or the organization should fit into, the identity fits between each other. One thing which at least from what I understand or what we have felt is that you have to, each of them, both the organization as well as the individual, should respect differences. It's that there will be differences, and we have to ensure that we respect differences. The second aspect is that in terms of these differences, there are also going to be common grounds. Identify those common grounds. So once you have these two, we understand this too, and it becomes a shared responsibility of the organization as well as the individual to align with each other. That is when that is when synchronize it is when it becomes a very successful partnership. Okay, that's one thing. The second thing is you talked about from a value fit perspective. The question was that how will the individual, the future leaders which we have here as individuals, if they have to go back and how do they ensure that they fit in? See, one is the outside-in approach where we go and read about the organization and everything. But there is an inside-out approach, right? You have to go and find out what are you good at, or what is it that takes for you, and what is it that is not working for you. So you have to spend time with yourself, and it is very easy to identify that. All you have to do is spend 15 minutes every day for a period of 1 week. You will find out what your core values are automatically. Individuals have to identify what your core values are. You would easily know that 20 years back, again I'm going way back, right? 20 years back, the promotions and everything used to happen. If somebody spent a certain amount of time in the organization, is a very loyal guy who's promoter. So he will promote it. That's how it was there. Now I am prepared tomorrow if I have to report to an individual, irrespective of years of experience. The world is moving to that extent. I have had managers in my past, in the last few years, where managers were 10 years younger than me, and I have reported to them, and I still got a lot of learning from them. So the system has the way we look at it has completely changed. How it goes, and that's the evolution part of it we are talking about, the cultural evolution which we talked about, right? So I think these are a couple of things which I wanted to point out so that.
Thank you very much.
Future leaders take care.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so I think I've enjoyed thoroughly the discussion. I just wanted to quote something. Peter Drucker once said that culture is strategy for breakfast. So anyone who would like to go right on that, because me being a strategy person, that it is a discussion that I conduct in my class. So if you would like to throw, if you like one or two or like
The same, the slide I used when I was going through this journey of culture transformation, and that's the reason what I said, that everything starts from the business, and when you see the business, that is a business strategy. So if at all you see my strat map, there's a value drivers, right? And then we have a strategy, and what kind of culture do we need? That is coming from that particular strategy. What I told in the beginning, that earlier we were plan and hierarchy. That time also was $16 billion company and all, and why we are changing now? Because the strategy got changed. And and everything has to cascade it down. So what Peter Drucker has said, we are actually doing, so the cultural, behavioral culture is getting derived from the business strategy which we have.
So when we reach out to clients, prospective clients, and we try to align our culture values with the client's culture values, I think Razorpay does to a large extent, and they showcase that in their ads as well. If anybody of you recognizes the recent ads, they are promoting their own brand through the clients, and they are aligning their service providing with the culture or the output of the client's output, or the realization that okay, if they are in so and so industry, Razorpay is ready to be one of their partners. Similarly, GT also looks at alignments, and we have left clients, even though they are high-paying clients, but we don't align them with the culture, and that is where I think the strategy changes if the culture is not aligned. I hope I answered your question.
Okay. Shall we take a couple of questions? I think for lack of time, we'll take two. And volunteers, can you partner? And keep your questions, ask questions, brief.
Hello everyone.
You are audible.
Hello everyone, my name is Pallavi. So my question is for the panel. Like as we have discussed till now that how culture is so important. and how it should align with the employee. So let's talk about a situation where you are interviewing an individual and you have observed that that individual is really good at his work. You know that his qualities align with the role perfectly. You know he'll be an asset for your company. But you have also observed one thing that somehow he might not be able to fit in the culture of that organization. So what would be your approach over there? Will you consider hiring him and then teaching him the culture, or that would be a dead end for that employee?
Before that, give a big round of applause. I love the question. I'll share my perspective. If the panel have other perspectives, they can add. So, in my experience so far, what I've seen is there are degrees to which you evaluate, right? Like, for example, there are core values on which, and when we rate also people, we rate people like not at all aligned, not inclined. Inclined is good, that all the values are matching. There is a stage called borderline inclined. So then it depends that whether if it is not inclined, it's a straight no. If it's borderline inclined, then usually we have a debrief panel, like the people who evaluated the candidate. There could be 3 to 4 people who evaluated the candidate, and there we present our opinions. And if I feel that, for example, I felt that this person will not take ownership, I'm not sure about that. And then we check with other panelists that, okay, did you also feel the same in your interview? Sometimes it happens that one of the other panelists comes up with a response saying that, no, but I checked on this question and I felt that this person can take ownership. So there's a lot of debate and discussion that happens on this, because hiring for any organization is one of the most important activities. So, and during the discussion, then either the panel aligns that, yeah, we are convinced with the other response, and there might be a slight bit of gray area. We give that feedback to the hiring manager of the person that, please note, there was a slight issue that we felt. Broadly, we feel that the person is clear with the core value, but you might need to coach him or her in his or her initial days. But this is only a case where there is a mild dissonance. If there is a larger dissonance where one panelist is putting their feet down, saying that, no, I really don't think this person is the culture fit, in most cases, most organizations decline to hire in that.
Like I second that. I mean, all of us, recruitment and HR, are the gatekeepers of the organization. So we need to make sure that if the person is not aligned with the culture or the value system, but everything else matches, then we have to call that out. And as Bhavya said, that coach that person. If we still need to hire that person because of business reasons or strategy, then make sure that from day one onwards, we have identified that, okay, these are the gray areas we need to coach, identify the coach from day one, and that coach will be responsible for his or her alignment to the values.
In that sense, it's a very layman language. If the person is coachable and very critical, I think the person has to be gone case is a company this. Then you join the hand.
I think from gone case she meant the code red areas where it's absolutely a no, where it, for example, there's an integrity issue, ethical issues, and at times in interview we can gauge it. Then it's a straight no. We choose culture over performance or best of talent. We do not compromise on that. Some skills, there are some gaps in skills which are trainable. Then we can take a bet on that.
Okay, thank you very much. I think for lack of time, we have to bring it to a close. Unfortunately,
We'll be around for lunch.
So they can interact with you. It's been a fascinating discussion. Thank you all the panelists. Thank you very much. We hope to have you all back on our campus. Thank you to the audience as well.
Mr. Banerjee, I thought you will be bringing the vibe of Arun Mukherjee, but you are super polite.
You mean Arnab Goswami?
Arnab Goswami.
I have learned much from him as to how not to moderate. Thank you.
I thought that you were going in that direction, but it was really great.
Thank you to the panel. Thank you to the audience. Thank you very much.
Please sit down, everyone. Please be seated. Thank you to all our panelists and to Dr. Banerjee for such a deeply engaging and enriching conversation.
shed light on how an organization's identity is more than just values on paper. It's lived every day through actions, collaboration, and shared purpose. Let's take these learnings forward to build cultures that inspire, connect, and drive meaningful impact.
I would now like to request our esteemed faculty, Professor Soumya Jyoti Banerjee, to present the token of appreciation to our respected panelists, Ms. Bhavya Sharma, Mr. Arun Chetty, Ms. Archana Srivastava, Ms. Shruti Walia, Mr. Rakesh Jain, and Ms. Nandini Banerjee. As we do so, we extend our heartfelt gratitude for your presence and insights today. We truly look forward to building stronger collaborations with each of you in the future, welcoming you back to the IMI Bhubaneswar family again. I would now like to request Mr. Kumar Aditya, Member Secretary of Insignia, to propose the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon. As we draw this enriching discussion to a close, it is my privilege to extend a heartfelt vote of thanks on behalf of all of us at IMI Bhubaneswar. To our distinguished panel members, Ms. Bhavya Sharma, Mr. Arun Chetty, Ms. Archana Srivastava, Ms. Shruti Walia, Mr. Rakesh Jain, and Ms. Nandini Banerjee. Thank you for your presence and for sharing your invaluable insights and real-world experiences with us. Your perspectives have broadened our understanding and inspired us to approach the future of work with renewed purpose and vision. We want to convey our heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed keynote speaker, Mr. Aravind T, for his invaluable insights. A heartfelt thanks to our respected Professor Arun Srivastava sir for his inspiring words. A special word of gratitude to our moderator, Professor Soumya Jyoti Banerjee, for skillfully guiding today's conversation and weaving together such diverse insights into a thought-provoking and impactful discussion. We also extend our deepest appreciation to our director, Professor Pratap Chandra Biswal, whose unwavering support and visionary leadership continue to inspire and guide us in creating meaningful platforms like this conclave. Our sincere thanks to the faculty, staff, and administration for their constant encouragement and seamless coordination behind the scenes, and a special mentions to the member of Insignia Club, Placement Committee, and the members of Media, Public Relations and Branding Committee for their tireless efforts and dedication in bringing this event to life. Finally, to all our attendees, thank you for your enthusiastic participation and thoughtful engagement. Your presence truly makes gatherings like this more vibrant and meaningful. Thank you all once again, and we look forward to many more such opportunities to learn, share, and grow together.